Hi there, I'm AWayfaringFrog and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I'm back with another Animal Crossing inspired speed build, and I'm really excited for this one since it's using the new kit, the Cozy Bistro kit, that came out in The Sims 4 not too long ago. And I thought one of the swatches in particular, there's this really nice green one on a lot of the items, and it just kind of screamed the roost to me from Animal Crossing. So I decided to make this build very heavily inspired by the roost. And if you aren't aware of what that is, it's the coffee house in the Animal Crossing games. I put a picture on screen of kind of the interior. And as you can see, it's very green, a lot of wood colours. And I just thought that would be a perfect idea to build a cafe in The Sims as well. I also decided to make this sort of a multi-functional lot in a way. Obviously, that's not a thing that you can do in The Sims 4, but I included a library on the second floor using quite a lot of the Crystal Creations pack, since I love the bookshelves from that. So I will add that in much later. But it seemed like a nice place for your Sims to come, sort of grab a book and a coffee while they're here. It's probably worth noting as well that the angle I'm currently building this at does change. At some stage, once I've built most of the exterior, I end up checking to see what the lot will look like on the gallery photo ID. And it turns out that I was making the front of the lot on the wrong side. So I did cut that bit out of the video, but it does flip around at some stage. So you'll see that happen a bit later on. So actually looking at the build now, I ended up using the floor that comes from the Batu game pack, or Journey to Batu. Not everyone's favourite game pack, but I do really love that flooring, and it looked like it matched really well with the different colours that went in line with the flooring in the world around it. So I did end up using that, but if you don't have that pack and you did want to download it, hopefully it's quite an easy switch to make. Also, this fencing that I'm currently adding in, that's from Debug. It comes in the world that this is built in. It's Britechester from the University pack. I do end up removing that entirely, just because a lot later on, again, as you can see, I'm sort of putting this around the front of the lot right now. A lot later on, once I flip the lot around, I play test off camera and then discover that the Sims can actually just walk right through this. So from an aesthetics point of view, not a massive problem, but it really bothered me when the Sims were just walking straight through the fence. I even tried to put bushes around it to see if that would stop them from doing that, but they still insisted on just ghosting their way through. So I do switch it out to have a combination of bushes and then using the actual fence item that came in the university pack. I think it looks quite nice, but it's sort of a shame because I did really like this debug one, and I spent ages placing it. Again, I've cut most of that out from the video, so you don't have to watch that several times over. I was also fiddling around with the columns. A bit earlier, I was looking at those, and there were some that came in Strangerville, which actually matched really well with the green of the Cozy Bistro swatch. But again, I took that out just because the wood swatch on it was so orange, and I really didn't want to have to use that throughout the build. And speaking of perfect swatches, these windows from University also match the green from the Cozy Bistro set really well. So it's great that the Sims team have started creating items that kind of match from other packs, so you're not limited to just using one in each build, otherwise having a big mix of different wood swatches and colours that don't really work together. So I think it comes out really nicely. For the roof now, I'm just adding in these little gold sections that border the entire roof. They're from Strangeville as well. I thought they brought in a lot of the gold accents that I've got throughout the build, which again came on a lot of the Cozy Bistro items, and I think it works quite nicely. The roof swatch that I chose as well changes in the end because I ended up deciding that a darker swatch looked quite nice. So that will switch out a bit later on in the build as well. And now I'm just trying to work out the floor plan, which I struggled with for a bit, just trying to work out where to put the stairs. That's a problem that I almost always have in every build, to be honest. But I ended up just taking a few of the windows out so they weren't clipping with the stairs, and then added in these trellises from the high school years pack. And I thought that looked quite nice in the end, and it broke up a lot of the monotony around the bottom floor. I did really like having windows on every piece of the walling though for the cafe, so I'm not too mad about how much of it there is. And then adding these roof pieces on, again from the university pack in the same swatches as the windows I used, I thought added quite some nice dimension and broke up just the tiling since it's quite tall, as it's an entire floor on the roof that your Sims would be able to access, but I didn't furnish it at all or include any access up there. And now you'll have just seen that the lot has switched around. So it is the same as what I've built. It's just mirrored so that the front of the lot is the other side. And I'm adding in some of these bikes to this little bike lot that I wanted to include. Again, it seemed quite useful for the university pack since bikes did come in the game for that. And I added a few children's bikes from the Growing Together pack, so it seemed a bit like families were coming to this lot. The tree cages as well that I've added around, they're also from Debug, in case you hadn't seen them before. They're just in the base game, and I find them really useful for community lots because you can still add quite a lot of greenery, even though there's not really many grassy patches. So working a bit more on the floor plan, the 3 rooms that I added upstairs end up becoming a hallway for the middle one, and then 2 bathrooms either side. And I'm just picking a door that matches the wood swatch of the Cozy Bistro set. Although again, I end up changing those downstairs sofas to the more green aesthetic. When I removed the flooring from up where the stairway is so that it closes off more as a rectangle rather than following the line of the stairs that cuts out from the flooring as you place it in, the column that was on the outside of the build kept glitching inside for so long. It was really frustrating. But thankfully, I didn't do anything different, but it just kind of stopped clipping inside. So I was really happy with that in the end. It really bugs me with those kinds of glitches in The Sims when you try and make a really nice open area for the stairwell, and then the game just clips in all of the roofs on the second floor. It's such a irritating thing, but it didn't happen on this lot in the end, so I was quite happy about that. I did also try to use every item from the Cozy Bistro kit in this build, but I think there's at least 3 that I don't end up adding, because there's the bar, since I end up using the cafe bar instead. I was really upset though to find that from Get to Work, oh no, that one's from Get Together, isn't it? They only have the one style, which really bothered me because, I mean, it works in this build, but if you wanted a different kind of aesthetic, you're really limited for the cafe in that regard, since it only comes in that one style and a few of the base game color swatches that match the kitchen units. So that's a bit disappointing, but thankfully not really an issue for this build. In the bathrooms now as well, those green curtains do change. I end up going for a bit more of a modern twist throughout as well. And I actually picked out the curtains, again, not from the bistro kit, that's another one of the items I don't use, but I picked the ones from the Riviera retreat kit. They just look so pretty, and I think they suited it really well, and they had the gold accents, which was quite a theme throughout, so that worked really well. In the library now, and honestly the Crystal Creations pack worked so well in this room. Because the sofas from the Cozy Bistro kit were so big, they didn't really fit well and they were too tall, so they clipped with the bottom of the window. I just didn't really like how it looked. But these were the right height and they came in the same colour swatch. So they look really nice and cozy, and I thought it worked well in here. It ends up being a very nice room, I think. And there's another armchair as well, which had just about the right swatch. That was from the Maximalist kit. I forget what it's actually called, but I'll add that here shortly, just as an accent chair. And again, that's got the same gold swatch. So it looks like the Sims team have really been settling on the same color variants across each of the different packs. So it's been quite helpful to be able to use different packs for decorating, but still getting the same color scheme throughout. So here's that chair that I was mentioning. And I think it just looks really nice for the space. And I've split it up with those little, I'm not really sure what you call them, maybe dividers that come with the Cozy Bistro kit. And now just cluttering up the bookshelves. This is a bit tedious since they don't all slot to the different sections of the shelves. So you can just see me all placing those, having to slot them in first so that they don't snap to the different slots that are available. So that is a bit of a pain. I also do it on the other side, but I don't think I take too long over it, so it shouldn't be too painful to watch through. And the Book Nook kit was also quite helpful here, just to make it really look like a used library. And I also added in a couple of just odd books that your Sims can actually read on the tables here, including from the Everyday Clutter kit. I added a couple of dirty coffee mugs so it looks like the spaces have been used by the Sims. Also, that red shelf that appeared while I was decorating the bookshelves, that's just a piece of custom content that helps me place items at specific heights, since the items will slot to that. And then for the shelves in game that aren't big enough to allow for bigger items to slot to them, that red shelf is really useful for that. I think it's from Amoeba, and it was the YouTuber Griffey who I actually found the link for that particular piece of CC. But let me know if you want a link for that at all, and I can try and dig it out of my mods folder and add it to the description of the video. And speaking of which, if you are enjoying the video so far, please be sure to like and leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already, as it would really help the channel out. And I'd also appreciate your thoughts on any future build ideas that you want to see, any general builds, or even Animal Crossing inspired ones. I do mean to go back to making specific houses for villagers. I just kind of got really into the community builds lately with my last video, which was Nook's Cranny, and then with these new kits. Just had to make the roost. But I do want to start making more residential houses inspired by some of the villagers from Animal Crossing again. So let me know which character you'd like to see me build a house for. So I've just added those curtains into all of the windows, which is from the Riviera Retreat kit, and they look so pretty. I really love those items. I've also been working on a build with that kit, so I'll post that a bit later as well. And then speaking of curtains, I mentioned in one of my previous videos about the fact that I have a mod which stops those from snapping to the window itself, and it turns out that is actually from Ravasheen. So I definitely recommend checking them out, as they have a lot of really great quality of life mods. I've got quite a few of their mods that they've uploaded, so that one in particular I recommend. It just makes it so much easier to place curtains. So I really like it. And here now I'm just cluttering up the top floor. At first I include the cafe tables on the inside as well as the outside here, but I end up switching that over to be just chess tables. So again, there's more functional gameplay items for your Sims to use, and it felt like it just didn't seem right to have the cafe tables in this area. So just because of the bookshelves, I suppose. So I think it looks really nice having the chess tables instead. And it's always good to have more things for your Sims to do while you're out and about, I think. Otherwise, I just end up never leaving my Sims house, because everything that I need to do or want to do is usually at their house. So I like having these items around. If you're also a fan of the older Animal Crossing games, you might remember that in the Roost, KK Slider, who is the dog who plays music every Saturday night, he used to play in the Roost. There was a stage set up just for him, so he'd always appear in your game on each Saturday playing in the Roost there. And I haven't added a stage in this build just because I didn't really see a spot where it would work with the floor plan that I ended up going for. And to be honest, I don't think it's that useful from a gameplay point of view. But what I did do is outside, in the area just out of the front of the lot where I'll end up putting a few tables and chairs, I end up using there's an item in City Living where you can have a busking station, and then your Sim can actually play an instrument and busk while they're there. So I thought that would be quite useful to include. And I added a guitar with it as well, just again as a nod to one of the characters who's quite a staple to the Roost. And then it's more functional for your Sims in game. I'm really happy I found a spot for this mirror that I've just added in as well. I think it's such a nice item, but it's quite big. So I did originally look at trying to include that into the bathrooms, but it just didn't have enough wall space to allow for it, to be honest. So I've put it at the top of the stairs here, and I think that works nicely. And now heading back downstairs, and the booths that I've added in to the right-hand side, where I'm just putting the screens in front as well, they're not actually functional from what I could tell when I play tested. They will only allow for tables that are at least 2 tiles long as well to snap to them. But even when I removed those screens, the Sims just didn't seem to be able to sit at the table or even sit on the sofa at all. So they're more just for aesthetics, to be honest. And that's another reason I decided to leave the screen in, since they couldn't sit there anyway. So from a gameplay point of view, there was no point taking out the screens, and I really liked how they looked. But your sim can access at least the closest chair. I don't think I tested the back chair in those corners. So they can still sit at the table, just not on the sofas. On the corner of the counter that comes from Get Together as well, I don't actually like how that looks, so for a while I fiddle about with that a bit later on. I end up adding a half wall, I think, just to cover some of it up. Um, but I add some stools shortly, again from the new kit, so they match with the aesthetic of the area. They're not actually functional insofar as the Sims they don't snap to the bar, so the Sims will just sit at them, but they do still work, and I think they look quite nice when I add those in, so I should probably be getting those shortly. I also raised up this booth area at the back onto a platform, and again a bit later when I remember that we've got a new flooring with this kit, I end up adding that on, and I think it looks a lot nicer than just having the rugs that are currently there from the Book Nook kit. So here you can now see that I'm fiddling around with that half wall, trying to cover up that corner of the bar. It doesn't seem to line up properly with itself, so I really don't like how it looks, but I think I've managed to find a decent workaround. And then that meant I was able to use another one of the new items, which was the stools, since I didn't include any tall tables anywhere, and one didn't come with the new pack, so I wasn't sure where to put them since I'm not using the bar from the kit either. This ceiling item, which is overhanging the coffee machine from the counter, is actually from the Home Chef Hustle kit. And as with most of my builds, I'm incredibly indecisive, so that ends up changing to be the new item that came with the Cozy Bistro kit. It just seemed like it was too high off the ceiling in comparison to the counter when I initially put it there. So that's why I used the Home Chef Hustle one for a bit, but then that one seemed too low, and I just felt like it would be nice to have the bottles from the new kit, even though, again, this is a cafe rather than a bar. I figured that the bottles could just be like actual juice, not like the juice that's in the game. So that changes. I think it's one of the last things that I update. And then you might have also noticed that I have changed some of the brick wallpaper on the inside from the brick that was on the outside to this wood paneling, which is from the Book Nook kit. Again, that feels more true to the Roost, since there's a lot of wood accents in that and not really any brick ones. And I think it looks a lot nicer with that. So it's one of my favorite wallpapers as well. I've also now realized about the flooring that came with it, and I think this helps add a lot of color, because for a while it just felt like there was a lot of monotony with the wood flooring. I include that in the bathrooms upstairs as well. I also just feel like in general I have a weird aversion to using lots of wallpapers in a build, just because whenever Sims started building the official lots for the packs, I think they have said in some of their videos that the Sims team have actually told them that they need to restrict the number of wallpapers, so it helps reduce any potential lag in gameplay. So that was one of the reasons that I just ended up using the brick wallpaper for a while, but I think it looks a lot nicer with the wood paneling. And now back outside, you'll have seen that I've now updated the fences to be the actual fence item from Discover University rather than the debug ones. I did add in a lot of bushes as well, and I cut all of that out of the video just because it took me a while to figure out that the Sims were always going to walk through it, as much as I didn't want them to. So that's now replaced, and the bushes I think really help to add some colour to the front of the build, which would otherwise have just been stone to greet the Sims as they came to visit the Roost. Additionally, the fairy lights that I've added, I think you can get some in debug from possibly base game. There was an event a while back now where I think they ended up being added into the base game, but through debug only. I don't know where they are in the catalog. I should probably download Twisted Mexie's mod to have the better build by, but I just haven't bothered with that yet. Although the ones I've added into this build are the ones that come from the toddler pack. So if you didn't have that pack and you wanted the fairy lights, you might need to have a look on the gallery or have a dig around debug to find those from the base game. Also from debug, I got these planter pots, which are from the high school years pack, I believe. The For Rent pack also have a few planters, but I think this one was from high school. And I included a few base game flowers just to add a bit more colour to the area. And I'm now swapping out these menus that were on the outdoor tables just to have candles instead, again to sort of make the lighting look a lot more cozy at nighttime. And then again, just adding a few lamps around the space to brighten things up when it is dark, so you can still see the lot even at nighttime. I think it looks really nice in this lighting as well, and I even included a shot of that in the end card, so make sure you stay to the end of the video to see that. Just finishing off a few things here, just maneuvering a few pieces about just to make sure that the Sims can access the bins even with that busking station there, and then replacing or adding over a few columns onto the poles that come with the toddler stuff fairy lights, just because I think it looks nicer having the columns there rather than the ones that come with that item. And back inside again briefly, just for a few final touches, I'm just adding in a few plants here and there, including this new one from the Riviera Retreat pack, which I think has become a new favourite of mine. And we're now coming towards the end of the speed build portion of the video, so if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel, and make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you know when my next video is out, which will be on the Riviera Retreat Kit. You can also download this build using my EA ID on the Sims 4 gallery. And as before, if you have any ideas for future builds, be sure to leave a comment below, even if it's not Animal Crossing related. I do have some plans already, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you want to see on the channel too. Thanks again, I hope you enjoy the screenshots and have a great rest of your day.